In today's world, let's be honest, our digital systems are the business. But as they've gotten more and more powerful, they've also become incredibly and dangerously complex. So in this explainer, we're going to tackle a massive question that every single organization is facing. How do you actually manage all of this?
Think about it. When a critical service crashes or a huge data breach hits the news, what's the first question everyone asks? Who's responsible? But it's almost never a single person's fault. Instead, you get this frantic finger pointing, all because real accountability is just buried under layers and layers of complexity. Answering this question, for real, is what we're here to do.
And to find that answer, we first have to get our heads around the new reality we're all living and working in. I mean, it's an environment that has completely changed the game for how businesses operate.
Here's the thing. Modern businesses aren't just a stack of servers and applications anymore. No way. They've evolved into what we call complex adaptive systems. A good way to think about it is like a living ecosystem, like a rainforest. The health of the entire forest doesn't depend on just one tree, right? It emerges from all these countless little interactions. The soil, the bugs, the sunlight, the trees all working together. Well, it's the exact same idea with our digital systems. And what does this digital ecosystem actually look like? Well, it's this sprawling, tangled web of cloud services you don't even own, workloads that can spin up and then just vanish in seconds, and infrastructure that's scattered all across the globe. That old, comfortable idea of having a secure wall around your company, yeah, that's completely gone.
Okay, so we have this new, borderless, kind of wild digital reality. But here's the real problem. We're still trying to manage it with these old, rigid playbooks from a different era. And this mismatch, it creates a massive, and I mean massive and dangerous governance gap. And this slide right here gets to the absolute heart of the issue. Our management structures, how we run things, are trapped in these organizational silos. Every team is basically in its own tower, totally isolated, and they can't see the whole picture. And that's where the danger really starts. This table just lays it out perfectly. You've got the cybersecurity team over here using their own frameworks to stop breaches. You've got IT ops, and they're using theirs to keep the systems running. Risk is laser-focused on regulations. And, of course, leadership is worried about strategy. Look, everyone is amazing at their specific job, but they're all speaking different languages and chasing slightly different goals. They aren't working together as one system.
So what happens? You get this inevitable and dangerous diffusion of responsibility. You've heard the saying, right? When everyone is responsible, no one is truly responsible. And this makes it almost impossible to guarantee that the very systems running the entire business are secure, reliable, and actually doing what they're supposed to be doing.
And make no mistake, this isn't just some management headache. It is actively dangerous. This fragmentation creates huge blind spots where risks can just grow and fester. It prevents any kind of real, consistent oversight, and at the end of the day, it undermines the one thing these systems are meant to do: protect digital value. So how do we fix this mess? I mean, you can't manage a complex web with a bunch of disconnected rulebooks. It's just not going to work. We need a new model, a systemic overlay. And this is where a really interesting concept comes into play: the Digital Value Management System, or DVMS for short. A DVMS is a total game changer because it's not another silo. Think of it more like a layer of connective tissue, an overlay that sits above all the other teams, and its only job is to integrate all their specialized work and get everyone focused on one single shared goal: protecting and growing the company's digital value. Now, this is a really crucial point. The DVMS doesn't replace what teams are already doing. All those specialized frameworks like NIST and ITIL, they are still absolutely vital. A DVMS just acts like a conductor for an orchestra. It makes sure all the individual experts are playing in harmony and working together toward the same strategic piece of music. So what does this actually look like in practice? Well, the whole DVMS framework is built on 3 fundamental pillars that all work together to protect and sustain that digital value. Let's break them down. Pillar number 1 is operational resilience. And listen, this is about way more than just bouncing back from a cyber attack. It's about building a system that can adapt and keep performing through any kind of disruption, whether that's a cloud provider having an outage, a critical software bug, or a major failure in your supply chain. A DVMS builds this kind of deep resilience by forcing the organization to see the whole picture. It actually maps out all the critical dependencies, not just in the technology, but with people and processes too. so you can understand how one single failure could cascade through the entire system. This makes resilience a core part of the design, not just some item on a recovery checklist you look at after something bad happens.
All right, pillar number 2 is performance assurance. And ultimately, this is all about trust. How can the board, how can leadership be confident that the tens of millions of dollars they've invested in technology are actually delivering value? How do they know it's supporting the company's mission? This pillar provides that answer. So instead of relying on a yearly audit that's probably out of date the second it's printed, a DVMS delivers this assurance in real time. By weaving performance metrics right into the governance process, leadership gets this continuous, living view of system health. And that shifts the entire organization from being reactive to being proactive, solving problems before they can ever impact value. And the final pillar, transparent accountability, brings us right back to where we started. It directly answers that question, who is responsible, by establishing crystal clear ownership, responsibilities, and decision-making authority for every single part of the digital system. This pillar directly solves that whole diffusion of responsibility problem we talked about. Because when roles are clear, decisions get made faster and with more confidence. And when a crisis does hit, the team doesn't waste precious time pointing fingers, they just execute their roles. It completely replaces a culture of blame with a culture of action. So let's pull all this together. Where does this leave us? We're in a completely new digital era, and the path forward is going to require a fundamental shift in how we think about governance and value. If there's one thing you take away from all this, let it be this. Our digital systems are the business, and governing them can't be an afterthought or a series of disconnected checklists. Our governance model has to be just as dynamic, just as integrated, and just as systemic as the technology it's supposed to control. Which leaves us with one final and I think critical question for every leader out there to consider. Is your current governance model just protecting yesterday's assets, or is it actively creating tomorrow's value?